Old School is a 2003 American comedy film directed and co-written by Todd Phillips. The film stars Luke Wilson, Vince Vaughn, and Will Ferrell as depressed men in their 30s who seek to relive their college days by starting a fraternity and the tribulations they'd encounter in doing so. The film was released on February 21st, 2003, and received mixed reviews from critics, but would go on to gross $87 million worldwide, against a $24 million budget. At the 1998 Sundance Film Festival, Todd Phillips premiered the documentary Frat House to acclaim, winning the Grand Jury Prize in the documentary category with co-director Andrew Gerland. Ivan Reitman, who had produced the fraternity house comedy Animal House, saw the documentary and wanted to collaborate with Phillips to revive that frat comedy film genre. The first film from Reitman and Phillips' partnership was the 2000 comedy Road Trip, which was also the first collaboration between screenwriter Scott Armstrong and Phillips. The success of Road Trip prompted Armstrong and Phillips to pitch Reitman on fraternity-themed films centered around adult men instead of the usual college-aged kids. Armstrong would say, "There's a weird brotherhood that happens when you're in college, when you're kind of finding yourself, and it was funny to think of old people doing that." Old School was filmed in and around La Crescenta in California from January 7, 2002 until March 18, 2002. Filming locations also included the Palisades High School, UCLA, USC, and Harvard University. The film is considered a forerunner to the Frat Pack since three of its stars, Ferrell, Vaughn, and Wilson, are core members of that comedy group. Some fun trivia notes. The film would open at number 2 in the box office behind the movie Daredevil with Ben Affleck, which was on its second week at the top spot. Some of Luke Wilson's scenes, like the one where he arrives home, were done in one take. The crew nicknamed him One Take Wilson. The foul-mouthed band playing at the wedding is a real rock band called the Dan Band. They've also appeared in Starsky and Hutch and The Hangover, both directed by Todd Phillips. Snoop Dogg agreed to do the cameo in this film so he could play Huggy Bear at Starsky and Hutch, released in 2004, a film also directed by Todd Phillips. There were plans to produce a sequel with the main characters on college spring break. Upon, though, reading the script, Will Ferrell, when promoting Semi-Pro in 2008, said that he and Vince Vaughn had the same reaction when they read the script, feeling like the story was just repeating itself. Ironically, the church where Frank, played by Will Ferrell, gets married was the same one used when Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson were in Wedding Crashers. Vince Vaughn signed his contract for the movie during the scene with the wedding. It was the first day of shooting and he had to sign the contract before we could start filming. He would also say that the studio did not want him for the film as they were unsure that he could do comedy, this being before he was known as a comedic actor. The photo, used at Blue's funeral, is actually actor Patrick Crandall's real photo from when he served in the Navy. Will Ferrell was really naked for Frank's streaking scene. He justified it by saying it showed his character had really fallen off the wagon. Ferrell, though, did need some liquid courage, as he was intimidated by the presence of Snoop Dogg on set. He also said that he'd been rehearsing the scene in a robe, and that there were people at the gym watching him as he ran down the street. He asked the production, "Should we tell them I'm going to be naked?" Sure enough, I dropped my robe, and there were shrieks of pure horror, Ferrell would say. After the first take, nobody was at the window anymore. I took that as a sign of approval. Simon Helberg plays the small role he has one of the pledges, namely Jerry, long before, of course, he would find fame in The Big Bang Theory. Patrick Cranshaw, who plays Blue, would die 2 years after this film. Some sources stated that this role gave him pop culture status in his latter life. Now, Old School was one of those films that I really enjoyed back in the day, but it hasn't aged particularly well. While it remains an easy watch and it has its fair share of laughs, the film feels like a product of its time, funny and juvenile, but ultimately a bit empty. What saves it from complete forgettability is the energy of its cast, especially Will Ferrell and Vince Vaughn. Will Ferrell shines in one of his earlier breakout roles. He's offbeat, awkward, and nails the comedic timing that would later define his career. Vince Vaughn is also at his best here, fast-talking, crude, and effortlessly entertaining. Without these two, the film surely would have fallen apart. Their chemistry brings the movie to life and carries it through some otherwise mediocre material. Put it this way, I can see why these two became massive stars. Luke Wilson, by contrast, feels miscast. He's bland and doesn't mesh well with the other two. His performance is more grounded, but in the film that's leaning hard on absurdity, it just makes him fade into the background. There, of course, are some standout scenes. Who can ever forget the elderly World War II veteran fraternity brother Blue dying of a heart attack during a KY Lube wrestling match with 2 naked college girls, all done for his birthday celebration? Or Will Ferrell's character Frank running naked down the street? Or the infamous tranquilizer dart incident? These, of course, are all funny and iconic moments, but beyond these highlights, the story really doesn't go anywhere. The plot starts strong, but sort of fizzles out by the third act. It almost feels like they either ran out of ideas or budget, or both. It wraps up quickly and unsatisfyingly, as if they were racing to hit the 90-minute runtime. And also the so-called love story here between Mitch and Nicole, played by Ellen Pompeo, is well just drab and boring, and adds nothing to the film and is really quite rushed towards the end. In the end, Old School is still enjoyable if you're in the right mood, especially for fans of early 2000s comedy, but don't expect it to hold up to the likes of some of the true classics, is more of a time capsule than a timeless hit, and by no means one of the strongest, if you will, within the Frat Pack filmography. Funny, if not rushed, but with two fantastic performances from Will Ferrell and Vince Vaughn. Old school gets a 6.5 out of 10.